Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we got another video. We're gonna do this one on Trump's Charlottesville response. It's gonna be mainly my views on it, but hopefully I'm able to debunk some things that I'm seeing all over, even the large media sites, all my Facebook, people's comments, things. People haven't. I don't think people totally got it right. I don't think people totally actually listened to it. So anyway, hopefully I can clear this up and or maybe just give you insights to how I'm taking it. Alright, so first of all, let's just jump straight into it. But first, this is what I think some of y'all just need to take a breath. Like, Jesus Christ, I think we should start off and just get that out first, because some of y'all are tripping, like, for real. I'm gonna take it step by step as to what I've seen. Maybe there's some things that I'm missing. I don't know. I didn't go in crazy research about it. Just the obvious things that I'm seeing, and some of the, I don't know. It's clear to me whatever side you're on. It's actually mainly, I don't know, I guess the left that just tripping right now, and not getting the whole message and not whatever. There's other arguments on the other side. I just think what I'm seeing right now is, I don't know, to me it was obvious. I understood what he was saying. The first, I don't know, we'll get into the details first. But I guess we just need to, I don't know, just gotta, it's important in times like these to really to pay attention to the message. Hear what's being said before you start formulating your opinions and stuff like that. What's being said? What are we talking? Don't come in with preconceived ideas and then looking to see what's going to fit your narrative. And I just see that's what's going on a lot, because I think if people just actually listen to what was said, it's like, all right, I get it. But first, let's run through it. So initially, he makes his first address, but it's supposed to be about veterans, and I guess the progress that they've made and whatnot. I'm not laughing that off or anything. I'm an idiot and I don't remember exactly what it was about. But anyway, so it's about veterans, and he makes his first statement. His first statement, he makes his first statement. But in that first statement, so he opens it up and he addresses the Charlottesville incident first. I don't think that lady died yet. I think these things were still kind of unfolding. I wasn't sure, because I don't think he addressed that yet. But pretty much, he condemns the actions first. This is what triggers everybody, is he condemns the actions of the violence and the bigotry and things like that. But then he says on many sides, and just leaves that. He doesn't. There's no clarification or anything like that. That triggers a lot of people, and I think rightfully so. It's like, because what we're seeing is people, especially by the time you probably even read that or heard that in your news media feed, you probably knew that woman got ran over, and then you hear that's a KKK rally and a Nazi, whatever, neo-Nazi gathering, and they're just preaching hate, and then all of a sudden you're seeing some counter protesters and people getting ran over and stuff, and then you're seeing like fights and them holding, like, this is what I've seen anyway. And then they were holding like KKK flags and I don't know, was there Nazi flags, and then they were just hitting people or whatever. And shit was getting crazy. So you see that, and then you see his condemnation. I don't know, of what happened when he says many sides, and then it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I understand that. I think that's rightfully so. That was the first thing. He then addresses it later in his second, maybe it's just a second address, I don't know. He had another one, I think maybe he was trying to talk about infrastructure. It was another conference he had at Trump Tower. But he gets into it again. Then I think that he just clarifies what he was saying. But before we get into that, I think the other issue that we had there was a couple things in that first one. The other one was, he does say, we must love each other, respect each other, and cherish our history and our future together. And I'm assuming since a lot of this, if you don't know, it started off with a protest because they were going to take down the Robert E. Lee statue. I'm not sure if they were going to, if they did. I'm not sure exactly the progress on that. But they were taking down the Robert E. Lee statue. And there was a protest going on. And let's just, first of all, yeah, there was going on. So the people showed up to that. Then neo-Nazis also, I guess, showed up. And then a counter protest was there as well. But anyway, but the thing is about this, they're going to take down the Robert E. Lee statue, the Confederacy, and slavery, and things like that. So they were saying, maybe this is not the kind of guy that we want posted up on our whatever. And then obviously you had the protest, the opposition to that. So when he's saying we have to cherish our history, he's referring to this directly. So this particular part of our history. That's mainly the address that he's making. I would assume so, right? Because that'd be on topic. I mean, the problem with that is, if you're gonna say we're gonna cherish our history, I don't know. I don't know too many black people that are gonna have fond memories of, that particular incident or that particular time in our history. So I mean, there's a problem there. I mean, what was positive about that? Is that is our story, whether good or bad. That is the American story. That is the progression. But what do you tell like a black person to to cherish those memories, or that part of our history? It just is what it is, and it's terrible. But I don't think that's the right word, to cherish that. You don't. You can learn from it and move on from it, and and learn from it. Did I say that already? Maybe. But I think that was, I don't know. I don't think it was articulated well. I think I understand what he's saying, but I don't think it was articulated well. I don't know if anybody really brought that up anyway, so I think people were pretty stuck on the many sides thing. That's just something I saw. And then just on the whole, so the beginning is, it's starting off with taking down the Robert E. Lee statue. And I just think that in that in particular, without getting into too much detail, I just think as far as that goes, there's room for intelligent debate on that. Because I get, like, the idea, because then he addresses this also in his second address, or I keep calling it second address, whatever. The second time he addressed it, that's the way I'm referring to it. It's the second address. Anyway, when he does it again, when he starts clear, I think he's a little more. He articulates what he really meant the first time. He doesn't back out of his position, but he articulates it better, and to me, it made sense. Which we'll get into that in a little bit. But he does say, like, all right, so if you're just gonna start taking down statues of like historical figures. It's like, is it based on if it's based on slavery? It's like Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner, George Washington was a slave owner, and still, maybe there is still room to debate that and say maybe we shouldn't have, this. Like, look, my black people were enslaved, also enslaved by George Washington, fucking Thomas Jefferson, stuff like that. They had slaves, and you see them on your money. They have statues of them. They're revered, things like that. But then to you, it's like that's the slave master right there. And then they're like, everyone's kind of hyping them up that like they didn't have that part of them as well. There is that, and I get that argument. Then there's other arguments that yes, they're big formative, like this is America, and they were formative. I can't speak on the camera. Formative, whatever, man. Shit. They were instrumental. Ooh. They were instrumental in the creation of America and just getting things started. So I get that, and this is America. So what's America without like a fucking George Washington, right? So I get that, and like, I guess the idea is like, where do you stop? And then I just think that there's room for intelligent debate. So I don't think necessarily I have to take down a statue yet. I think have two people articulate a side and then vote on it. Have the local government or whatever that's around there, the state, the mayor, I don't know, whatever, maybe it's like that part of the city. I don't know what level you decided on, but you have a debate, have people talk, give the sides, make a vote on it, right? Maybe that's the way to go about it. And maybe they did. Maybe that's the point where they got to, but then the protest still happened anyway because they were going to take it down and people didn't want it to for their own reasons. But I think there's room for argument on both sides. And I get both sides of those arguments. I'm not gonna side with either one right now because I'm just gonna keep the ball rolling and move on to the next one. in the second address, he is straight unapologetic. He articulates his points pretty well. It's to the point where what I get, and I think he did a fine job of saying what he meant when he said many sides. I understood what he was saying. Maybe it took about halfway through that video, I guess, because the beginning he still holds on to what he was saying and going on, but then he says he explains what he's saying, and where am I at here? So he's saying so the main thing is he says he needed to see the facts before he started making any like strong statements or whatever, and that's what took him so long before the first one that people were saying, and I put in quotes not to make fun of it because that's what people were saying, that it took you so long to make this announcement. He said he wanted to get all the facts. He didn't want to just make a political statement just to hear the political statement. I'm sure what that also means is they're saying, yeah, you can make something now, but on his end, you don't know what information he's hearing. And what it seems like, this is what he was saying. I'm gonna run the video so you hear what's going on, but just take a look.
On his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits, and with the helmets, and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Who was treated unfairly, sir? I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No,
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest, and very legally protest, because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this, there are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final?
So yeah, so what's going on is he's not talking about when he says there's problems on both sides. He's not saying there was the Nazi side and then there was the good side, or you know what I mean, or what, you know what I mean, and then the other are the people who protested against the counter protesters. That's not what he's saying. He's pointing blame. He says that his argument is this: is you have the neo-Nazi sides. What he says many times, he condemns those, and then he definitely dropped down on went hard on the guy who drove the car. I mean, obviously, right, as you should. But he says that he condemns the neo-Nazis, the KKK, and all that, in that movement. It's the white supremacy movement and stuff like that. He talks about there and how deplorable that is. But then he moves on to say this: that there were people there that went to protest with a permit the statue coming down of Robert E. Lee. And that's fine. And even if the neo-Nazis or whatever showed up and wanted to protest and do their own thing, they're allowed to. That's the right that they have to do so. They can go over there and just be bigots and be ignorant all fucking day long. And that's okay. Right? I mean, yeah, no, it's fine. They can say what they want. If they get any traction, people who they're actually going to influence and get traction from, they're idiots too. So it's just idiots just talking to more idiots. Let them do their thing. And at the same time, you also have the right to counter-protest them. Do your shit. Do your thing. Get out there. Whatever. Make your voice heard. That's fine. But anyway, but the argument is that, what the argument is that these people were protesting the statue coming down of Robert E. Lee, and they have their side, like we discussed a little earlier. So that was the main thing. But then you also had this other group, the neo-Nazi group, that kind of infiltrated this thing. He also says there's bad people on that side, whatever. He says this group. But he's saying He's particularly talking about the people who just showed up just to protest with a permit to protest the statue coming down. He's talking about them. Then he says, he doesn't necessarily, he says because someone's talking about the alt-right as this neo-Nazi group, and they're kind of being all lumped up together with the people who just wanted to protest versus the other group that just kind of showed up as well. So they call them the alt-right. You also have the Then he moves on to say, well, if you're going to call them the alt-right, we call this the alt-left or whatever. He's just trying to make some terminology. There was another group that came in, I don't know if it was with Antifa, but that's what people are talking about right now. It's Antifa, the anti-fascist group, what it's kind of short for. I guess they kind of, let me see what I remember. Yeah, pretty much they go where like opposition pops up, or they go where the opposition goes. And the opposition being the fascist groups. So they go there to try to dull their organization and try to counter that and disperse them. So they're always trying to counter that. And now this particular group, the people that got violent, I'm not sure if it was Antifa. I don't know. I don't know what it was, or just groups that people showed up. Like you had, and every time people just organize, not everyone's in your group that just show up and start fucking causing trouble or whatever, right? So I don't know. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. And then it's not the whole group. Doesn't just because outliers are there causing the damn scene doesn't give doesn't like bring your message down anyway. So this group, I'm fine with Antifa doing their thing, but what he is talking about, and I saw some videos earlier on Facebook that ended up popping up. I was looking on YouTube. I'm not sure if they were taken down or what, but I couldn't find any good ones. But there were people coming with like bats, shields, like SWAT team, and they were just coming in. They were just attacking some of the Nazi people, or not even just the Nazi people. I don't know. They were attacking. You see some of the flags in the group too, but it was a mix. And I think and then who knows what videos Donald Trump's seen and what he was heard. But he's referring to the other group that's the other side, and he even says there's good people on this side, the stand-up people, the people who generally or whatever are countering this neo-Nazi group. But he's saying that there was another group on this side that came in and sort of started swinging on people who also, and some of the victims of this group were the people who just got there to protest with a permit about the Robert Lee statue going down. And he says this, but people still think that he can't make a clear, like you can't name the bad guy and condemn the Nazis and stuff like that. But that's just the confusion that's going on. Is he's not talking about that. He's talking about the people who just went there under permit to protest. And then the other people, he's not saying that he's not grouping everybody. He did distinguish that there was another group. He said there's fine people, and then there's another group here that came in with violence, with bats and stuff like that, and they need to be condemned as well because this is a permitted group. And even if they were, I'm just going extreme, even if they were the KKK group, you can't just come in, like they're allowed to do this if they went through the right channels, grouped up, whatever, they can, yeah. Their message could be shitty, ignorant, whatever, but that's their right. They're protected to be able to do that and share their ignorant ass message. And you shouldn't be coming there and start beating on people. Yeah, and so, well, pretty much. Anyway, but the people some of the people who got harmed are also the people who just showed up to protest the statue coming down. And that's not cool either. And I think that was the overall message that he was trying to say. And then it's just getting blown up and going crazy. I think one of the big problems with the speech was he could have articulated it better still. He kind of glossed over the things that were, the thing that most people were pissed off about is that him assuming or not condemning the neo-Nazi group enough. Because he would like say it and then move on and roll off and then talk about, and it seemed like he would be quick to jump to the alt-left or the attacking group of the counter, whatever. Like, so he was trying. It seemed like he was trying to gloss over this and then like touch base here, but like make sure I address this. And I just think this is like at the end of the day, his message. I get what he was saying. I think the problem was he should have maybe spent a little more time talking shit about the Nazis and that particular group. Then went on and said, but look, we had also previous, which I mean he did say that, but I think just if you spent more time, really nailed it home that you're condemning the Nazis and their mission and all that stuff in their statement. But the group that was there that also fell in harm's way, that had a permit, that was just protesting a statue coming down, did not deserve to be harmed, and by another group that, and it wasn't a whole group, and he distinguishes that too, and then also say that, and then harp on that you had people that were doing a counter protest, and that probably shares the more ideals that we as a country want to embrace, but there was another people that were coming with bats, which you can't do, and you have to condemn that activity because you can't just bring up more violence against whoever the hell you want. I don't know. I think there was a better way to articulate it, but I got the message, and I thought it was pretty clear once you got about halfway through the thing. But what's happening is you're getting chopped pieces of his press conference. And most of them are just saying, like, where he's not really getting into it, he's just saying it on many sides or whatever like that, and they're just kind of spinning that. But I mean, to me, I get it. It was kind of obvious to me. And then look, I just think when it's important to keep clarity in moments like this, when differences are threatening to divide people, you have to stop looking through everything with a lens, like if you're with your preconceived ideas and everything, and then when you look at a situation, when you start hearing him speak, and you already can't stand this everything he stands or whatever, you're gonna, as soon as he says many sides or whatever, boom, the blinders on, you can't even hear. And one of the interview, or his press conference, the second one, he explains everything. And then the very next question is a girl saying, "Are you saying the neo-Nazis and whatever?" You know what I mean? No, he just said it not a couple seconds before that. So, like, you have to listen and get it, and then you're not gonna have such a fucking, riff, because you heard what he said, got it. You don't have to like the guy, but you hear what he said. He didn't say these things that you're just making a huge big deal out of. He wasn't implying that. You get it. The first one was a little gray, and he deserved to be taken to task and like, what do you mean by that? What's going on? Or do you really mean these things? Yeah, that deserved to happen. But then he clarified it, and even though in clips from that second speech are still getting rotated and getting, blown up. Yeah, I just feel like take it in, remove your prejudices, take in the information, process it, and then go from there. You can still make your ideas about whether the statues should be coming down. You can still make your ideas of what we should do in these scenarios. How do we keep more peace? How do we stop such a violent act? Because a violent act is that. How let's hold him to his feet to the fire in condemning these kind of activities a little more so, instead of trying to divide, blame, things like that. Especially when someone's dying on somebody killed somebody from a particular side. I don't know. There's different ways of going about it, but we don't just harp on things that are just not true and were clearly laid out for you. But yeah, I don't know. Keep up the clarity, man. Be smart, and don't forget to fucking breathe. Y'all people are tripping sometimes. But look, much love. Thank you for watching the video. Hope it made some kind of sense, and maybe I opened your eyes a little bit to actually what's kind of going on right now. And that being said, also, look, I don't claim to be any side. I just hear information and I make an opinion. I know this thing's might sound like I'm bashing the left or liberals or anything like that, but I'm not a pro-Trump guy. I'm not a righty and whatever. I just give me some information and I'll make a decision. And I think everybody should also do the same thing. And I always have compassion for other people first, and that's why when I hear things, I'm going to put myself in those shoes, and I'm going to hear things out first. Or I try to, for the most part, but it does well for me. But anyway, much love. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.